Hey everybody, what's going on? It's me, Ben Cornett here live on the Ben Zone. We're doing a kind of a recap of all the games that have gone on today here. March Madness second round recap. Man, I'll tell you, it has been a great day of hoops. You know, I thought, these first 2 days, Thursday and Friday, the first round games were incredible. I mean, today, the second round games kicked off, no different. Um, Another number one goes down in the Kansas Jayhawks. Arkansas beat them today, and they beat them 72-71. So Arkansas moves on to the Sweet 16. Kansas does not. It ends their season. I know a lot of people had Kansas in their brackets winning the national title, and I don't blame them for that. They're one of the most experienced teams in the country. Also, they're coming off being the defending national champions. They brought a lot of their uh, players back, Jalen Wilson, Harris, those guys. They just didn't have enough today. Arkansas outlasted them, and they're moving on. What a game that was. Um, we'll get right into it. Uh, good for Arkansas. I mean, Eric Musselman's done a great job with that program. He recently came from Nevada, Reno. Now he's uh, carving out his own niche over in Fayetteville. I mean, that team's dynamic, man. They really are. And I'll tell you, if I was excited for Eric Musselman, I was almost going to take my shirt off and swing it in the air. But I'm not going to do that because for one, I don't have the body type to do that. Um, it would be look pretty awful. And two, I do not want to get uh, banned from Facebook or any other social media platform at this time. So, with that being said, you know, this game was really good. To me, the key difference was, Arkansas out rebounded Kansas 36-29. That's huge. Especially with Kansas being a really good rebounding team. Very surprising that they got out rebounded in this game. Also, the 3 point um, percentage. Kansas is usually a very good 3 point shooting team, but only 5 for 13 today. Um, I thought Arkansas did a pretty good job of neutralizing KU on the perimeter. Didn't really get them into a good flow from the 3 point line. So kudos to Arkansas. Um, Again, but another key factor too, Arkansas had 15 offensive rebounds. Kansas only had 7. And those are, to me, if you have an advantage in the offensive rebounding category, you're going to be, you're pretty much going to win the game. You really are. That means you're getting second chance shots. You're adding more time to your offensive possession. And it's keeping the other team's offense from having the basketball. So Arkansas all around good team effort. Again, this is Kansas. Um, normally a good rebounding team, normally a good 3 point shooting team. Pretty much got beat at their own game today. So, and also, the turnovers weren't bad. 12-11. Kansas had one more turnover than Arkansas, but again, to me, it goes to rebounding and the offensive rebounding and the lack of 3 point shooting from Kansas. Only 5 threes today. Normally, again, I think they average about 8 or 9 threes a game. So you take you know, their best part of their offense away, you got a chance to win. So, um, just looking at that, also, Arkansas was 80% from the free throw line, Kansas 72%. So that was almost even as well. So it was an evenly matched game, and it could have went either way. But in the end, Arkansas, made the plays down the stretch, and they were able to win. So, um, yeah, and you know, for Arkansas, Council, he led the way, or I'm sorry, Davis led the way with 25 points. Council had 21 points. So their backcourt combined for 46 of the 72 points, which I thought was huge. You know, again, that's their backcourt, whereas, the backcourt for Kansas, Harrison, McCollum combined for 25 points. So the backcourt's advantage went to Arkansas. Surprise too was Arkansas got 16 points, or I'm sorry, 18 points off the bench compared to Kansas's 5 points. And that's another big factor too. The bench was huge for Arkansas. They stepped up, helped out the starters, offensively did well. And so that was the advantage. The bench scoring, the offensive rebounds, they were huge today for Arkansas to pull off this win. And now they're going to the Sweet 16 next Thursday here in Las Vegas. So great win for Arkansas. Good season for Kansas, but Kansas fans, Kansas players, coaches will tell you anything short of making a deep run in March is considered disappointing. And another thing, not having Bill Self out there today, the head coach of the Jayhawks, who, excuse me, he had a medical procedure. He couldn't be out there the final few games for Kansas. People say, well, is that a big deal? I think it can be because, players rely a lot on coaching. And when you have that lead voice in Bill Self, who's done this for over 30 years. I mean, he's been there nearly 20 years at Kansas. He's won 2 national titles. Having that voice, I think, does make a difference. And, who knows if he would have been back, that Kansas would have won. Maybe not. But, I think it's very important to have your head coach, head coach out there. Maybe that was weighing in on Kansas's mind. Who knows? But, again, kudos to Arkansas. This doesn't take away from the fact that they outplayed Kansas today. And they're going to be marching on to the Sweet 16. So congratulations to the Razorbacks. Also another game today. We'll talk about the first game. San Diego State beat Furman today, 75-52. This was the first game to kick off the second round. Not a surprise. I mean, Furman, kudos, upset Virginia. Great victory for them, on Thursday. But today, San Diego, they made the difference. Defensively, they're a lot better. They were able to shut down the 3-point shooting for Furman. We'll look at the team stats here. San Diego State offensively were 29 for 58, 50%, while Furman was just 16 for 50, 32%. That was a big difference. Furman, I think, made like 9 or 10 threes in the first game. They only had 6 3-pointers this game. So San Diego State did a good job of, not allowing Furman to fire from downtown. And San Diego State, they were able to get 9 turnovers. Also out-rebound them 41-24. And to me, San Diego State looks good. Yeah. So, Matt Trammell, he led the way with 13 points. Butler had 12. Bradley had 10 for San Diego State. They don't score a lot of points, so 75 points for San Diego State's pretty good. That's a lot more than they normally score. So, yeah. And, Bothwell, he led the way for Furman with 15 points, but again, not enough offense from Furman to compete with San Diego State, especially in the second half. And San Diego State, they're moving on next week in the South Regional in Louisville. So the San Diego State's a good team. Defensively, they're really good. They've always been really good defensively. You just wonder offensively, can they keep up with some of the better schools, that have a high offensive output. And, Charleston was a good test for him. Furman, maybe not as much. But once again, San Diego State proves that defense can win you a lot of games, and today was no exception. So good for San Diego State. They move on. The Duke-Tennessee game I thought was really good, really interesting till probably about pretty much the about 4 or 5 minutes to go in the game. Tennessee pretty much took over. They were able to shoot the ball very well. They ended up winning 65-52 over Duke. In that game, the star of the game was Olivier. I don't know how to say his last name. Nikamhawa. He had 27 points. Vescovi had 14 points. So they combined for 41 of the 65 points. That was huge, especially with Zakai Ziegler, who is out for the season with a knee injury. You're wondering where they were going to get their scoring from, but they got it today from Nakua and Vescovi. Vescovi's fun to watch. He's one of those guys that I think could, play in the NBA. Very good scorer, can find his own shot. Good passer as well. Can create not only his own shot but create shots for others. So he's definitely fun to watch. If you haven't seen enough of him, check him out. And do yourselves a favor, check him out if you like offense. And for Duke, again, this is a young team. They had a good run for the last month or so. Excuse me. And today they just, for some reason, they just could not get anything going. Jeremy Roach, he got into foul trouble early. He had 4 fouls midway through the second half, and he just couldn't be as aggressive offensively as he would like. Proctor came in off the bench. He was a starter, but he stepped up with 16 points. Fukowski, 13 points. But he's getting manhandled, by the size of Tennessee. And Tennessee has, a lot of tall guys that are lengthy and athletic that can cause problems for a smaller team. And, with Fukowski being your tallest guy on the team, he was still being manhandled in the front court. So that caused a lot of problems. Dariq Whitehead, he didn't show up today. So Duke, they're going to get better. They'll be back, but Tennessee was just a better team overall. And we'll look at the team stats here. Like I said, they out-rebounded them 35-30. But again, it comes back to offensive rebounding. Tennessee had 12, and Duke only had 6. But another key factor today was the turnovers. Duke had 15. Tennessee only had 9. And, when you have, I always say, if you have double-digit turnovers, you're usually going to have a tough time winning, especially in the tournament. 15 for Duke. That's tough to get over. And again, with Jeremy Roach, being in foul trouble throughout the game, he, like I said, couldn't be more aggressive offensively or defensively. So with that being said, Tennessee moves on to the Sweet 16. Good for them. And we'll go on to the other games right now. Right now, Alabama's leading Maryland 40-30 in the second half. Alabama's playing well right now. Brandon Miller's their star player. So far, he's having a good night. Maryland, they were up early, but uh, I'm going to watch the game in a little bit. The rest of it, Alabama up by 10. They should be able to uh, pull away here, but a lot of time left, over 15 minutes to go. So we'll see what happens there. Tell you what, the Cinderella of college basketball right now is Princeton. The 15 seed upset Arizona in the first round Thursday. They beat Missouri tonight, 78-63. Kind of surprising. I didn't really see that one coming, but it is March, so anything can happen, and give Princeton credit. Um, I thought Missouri, their star player Kobe Brown is one of the better scorers in the country. He was just held for 12 points on 5 for 13 from the field. Um, that's kind of surprising, but they shut him down. And their other scorers, Golston had 19, Carter had 14, but it just wasn't enough. The leading scorer for Princeton and in the game was Langborg with 22. So just going over the team stats here. The 3-point shooting was the difference as well. Princeton was 12 for 33. Missouri was just 6 for 22. When you're hitting that many threes, it's hard to beat a team that outshoots you like that from the perimeter. But Missouri did hit all their free throws in the game, which for a team that lost by 15, that's a little bit of a surprise, but it also probably didn't get to the line enough. Princeton now rebounded Missouri 44-30, and that's another thing, the rebounding. They crashed the boards, and offensive rebounds 16-8. It seems to be a theme here with all these games has been the offensive rebounding. The team that's had the advantage with the extra possessions off the offensive rebound usually win the game, and this was no different. Princeton now rebounded them, again 44-30, but 16 of those were offensive rebounds. So Princeton crashed the glass today, and we're more aggressive team. Missouri had a great year. I thought maybe they would go far, but it's not to be. Princeton, this is their Cinderella story right now. They could be the St. Peter's of last year, and they got to the Elite Eight. And, who knows? Princeton, they may go that far as well. So we'll see what happens there. Facebook user says hi. I'm not sure who that is. I'm not on Facebook right now, so I can't see the comment. But if you tell me who that is, I will give you a shout out. So some other games today. The Auburn-Houston game, 81-64 Houston over Auburn. The number one seed is still alive with Houston. We got at least one number one seed still in it. Depending on how Alabama does tonight, could have two. And this is a game I watched really closely. Houston, they struggled for a while against Auburn, but in the second half, Auburn just could not hit their free throws. They got to the line a lot. Houston had a lot of foul trouble. Sasser had 4 fouls. Shed had 4 fouls. Some of their other guys, they had 4 fouls. Walker, Roberts, all those guys had 4 fouls in the game. And Auburn couldn't take advantage of it. If you look here, their free throw shooting was 52%. I think they missed like 14 or 15 free throws. And when you look at the score, 81-64, Um, if they'd hit like 12 or 13 of those, they only lose by 2 possessions, maybe 1 possession. You know, um, yeah, it's tough. Very tough to be aggressive getting to the basket, but you can't make your free throws. You can't keep the game close. It has to be frustrating. I thought some of the coaching was questionable. Bruce Pearl wasn't. Got a little laxed at the end, the last couple minutes of that game. Um, Not trying to foul, trying to get extra possessions to give Auburn a chance, and it ended up costing them. So Houston, they move on. Sweet 16. It'll be interesting to see how they do from here on out. I'm still not sold on them. I know they're very good offensively. They rebound well. They got great scores, Sasser and Shed. But it's one of the best backcourts in the country. But I don't know if they can be consistent enough for 6 games to win a national title, especially with today's game. You know, they made their free throws. They made key shots when they had to down the stretch, but um, I'm still not quite sold on them. But we'll see what happens. There's a lot of pressure on them as well. The Final Four's in Houston, so I know they want to get there and play in their home state, play in their home city. So it's just going to be more and more pressure on them to do that. But again, if they can get better scoring get consistent scoring from their backcourt and stay out of foul trouble, then they definitely have a shot to get to the Final Four. But I felt like Auburn kind of helped them out a lot with some of the fouls and lack of offensive production, not being able to make some easy shots. And Houston, give them credit defensively; they're pretty good as well. In the game they had 12 blocks. That was huge as well. So if they can keep getting that defensive production out of their front court, then they are going to be tough to beat down the stretch. So Houston moves on there. The other game we had Penn State and Texas. Texas wins 71-66 over Penn State. It was a great game, probably the best game of the days so far. Just it went back and forth, several lead changes. But in the end, Texas was able to hold on. Despite only being shooting 1 for 13 from the 3-point line. That's amazing, especially these days when basketball is pretty much played, from the outside in now. Back then in college basketball, in NBA, like 15, 20 years ago was more inside out. But now it's more outside in, and again, it's impressive. Just 1 3-pointer for Texas, but yet they still win the game. But the key difference, though, I felt like was, if you look at it carefully, the rebounding 37-33. I mean, it was fairly even game, actually. I'll be honest with you. Again, the stats can be misleading sometimes, but Penn State kept it in there. They had 8 threes in the game. But again, this wasn't enough. They couldn't make key shots down the stretch. So Texas winning this one. And they move on to the Sweet 16. I have Texas in the Final Four. And I think they're in the same region as Houston. So if those two meet, that would make for a very interesting game and could be a very good matchup. So we'll see what happens there. And then the other game that just ended not too long ago, UCLA wins 68-63 over Northwestern. Again, Northwestern played UCLA tough, but I thought the talent and the backcourt for UCLA outplayed Northwestern's backcourt, as you know. UCLA shot 50% from the field, and 40% from 3-point range. Even though they were out rebounded 34-28, Northwestern did crash the boards more, but again, I think it was the 3-point shooting and just making key shots down the stretch. Tiger Campbell made his free throws. Juarez hit some jumpers. They got good contributions from Bailey. He played well tonight. Their bench play was a little better than Northwestern's, and Nicholson for Northwestern, he had 17 points. Bowie had 18 points. But again, UCLA's I felt like their talent and their guard play was the difference in this game. So UCLA is one of those teams where I said, they can make a run. They got probably the most complete team in the country. They're good on both ends of the floor, and they really make it hard for other teams to get in their offensive rhythm. Northwestern's a team that likes to shoot the ball a lot. So, when you disrupt their shooting, their rhythm, Northwestern's going to struggle. But, for the most part, even though they out-rebounded them by a lot, UCLA was able to make the key plays down the stretch to win that game. So UCLA is moving on to the Sweet 16 as well, and they'll play the winner of Gonzaga and TCU. That goes on tomorrow. So let's say Gonzaga beats TCU. Gonzaga, that'll be a huge game for them against UCLA. That would be really a great matchup. I'm looking forward to that if that happens. But TCU may have other ideas. So we'll see how that goes there. Looking at the scores again. Alabama's still up 44-35 on Maryland right now. So not going to stay here too much longer, but I want to say that tomorrow we have the other second round games. The one that kicks off at 12 p.m. Eastern time will be Xavier against Pittsburgh. That should be a good game. And then Kansas State and Kentucky, Michigan State Marquette, St. Mary's UConn, Creighton Baylor. That should be an interesting game. And the Cinderella, the other Cinderella. I know Princeton's one of them, but we got two Cinderellas. Fairleigh Dickinson, number 16 seed, who knocked off number 1 seed Purdue. They're going to play Florida Atlantic. So two lower seeds playing each other. Should be fun. That's at 7:45 p.m. Eastern. Miami, Indiana. That's a sneaky good matchup. Miami's team. Their leading scorer Isaiah Wong, fun to watch, great guard. And also you got Trace Jackson Davis, who's probably one of the best players in the country. He'll probably light it up in the NBA, but those two guys, those are the two guys you want to watch. I think whoever has the best game out of those two, Wong or Jackson Davis, I think their team will win. So that's a good matchup. And finally, the TCU Gonzaga game. That's at 9:40 p.m. tomorrow night. Again, another good game. TCU had a great game, great finish to that game against Arizona State. And then Gonzaga, beat Grand Canyon in the first round. So Gonzaga looking like Gonzaga right now. And we'll see what happens there. But with that being said, I'm going to take off and watch the rest of the Alabama-Maryland game. And I will see you guys later on. Maybe I'll do a show tomorrow night and we'll recap that. But again, thanks for joining me tonight. It's just a quick little pop-up video recapping night 2 or I should say, sorry, night 3 of the NCAA tournament, second round recap right there. And I should put that one up earlier, but I don't know, forgot. It's been a long day, so long day of basketball. Will be a long day of basketball tomorrow as well. So, with that being said, I am out. Cheers, everybody, and have a good night. Enjoy the rest of the weekend of college basketball, and I will see you later on. Take care.